Is that we are live. I have a couple of people here. Interesting. Despite the short notice, I'm hoping a few people are going to join. This is the last evening before Thanksgiving, and all of the different Black Friday sales and things like that already went live. So I thought it would be worthwhile to get online, talk a little bit about some of the more interesting things I see, and if you guys have any questions, anything specific you're looking for, or what would be a good choice for your application, this is not supposed to be a lecture. This is supposed to be more of a Q&A thing. And since I didn't feel like sitting here all alone, I asked my buddy Aaron from Anarchy Outdoors to join me. Apparently, he also has nothing better to do in the evening. So you've all presumably seen Aaron before. I'm not going to make him introduce himself. He's one of the owners of Anarchy Outdoors, and they make some interesting stuff and sell some of the products that other people make that they find interesting. I always wondered, Aaron, and looking at your website, it's sort of a fairly eclectic collection of stuff. Like, how do you choose what to carry and what you're not going to carry?
That's a trade secret, Ilya. That's a trade secret. Just kidding.
In other words, he doesn't know. Okay.
No. I can give you kind of a rough idea. We do pay really close attention to the numbers and to the hot trends. But to address that, I don't have anything else to do tonight. I was supposed to go to open mat jiu-jitsu, but my body is not ready for that, so I decided to skip and hang out with my buddy Ilya instead.
I just took my son to his jiu-jitsu class. He's doing BJJ. I'm looking at him going like, this looks like hard work. I don't know if I'd want to do it again.
It's hard. It's pretty hard work. I wrestled in high school, so it's been really fun to get back on the mat. I have some bad instincts for Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but it's been really fun. Like, I understand hand fighting and shooting and footwork and things. So I don't know how to attack or submit people, but I'm learning. So I've only been doing it for a couple weeks.
Cool. See, like
I got my 10-year-old son into it as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, my son is 12. He does it. See, I started my whole martial arts journey, which we are in almost exactly 40 years ago. I've been doing this almost exactly 40 years. I started in wrestling. I got kicked out for being mean. And I did judo for a little while until I got disqualified for medical reasons in the Soviet Union. If you were nearsighted, I wear contacts, right? They would not let you do anything that involves lifting things, and wrestling, judo, etc. qualified. So I love judo. Judo agreed with me. I was winning tournaments, and then I started doing kung fu because it was illegal in the Soviet Union anyway. It's underground, no medical to pass. Once I discovered that it is okay to punch people in the face, I forgot all about grappling. And I became a striker I did some sambo and BJJ, a couple other things, and some MMA over the years. But I've been mostly doing Muay Thai for the last 20 some years. So.
Yeah, I'll probably mix in some striking as well. The jiu-jitsu and the grappling is just to give my son some resilience. Right, because it's a suck fest. I mean, it just is.
I grew up in the Soviet Union. You know how we give ourselves resilience? 2 bottles of vodka. If your liver can survive that, you can survive anything.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't live in the great Soviet Union. So,
so for those of you who don't know, Aaron is LDS, so I never miss an opportunity to make fun of him a little bit.
I got a bottle of rum. I've been making vanilla with it, so not drinking it, but making vanilla. So
that's okay.
We bought some bourbon to make some bourbon ham for Christmas. So we cook with it a little bit. I don't drink it though. Even if I was an LDS, alcohol is such a poison. I don't.
It is an absolute poison.
I'm just not.
But I like the flavor. Anyhow, Mr. Rammers and Twangers, who I have not seen in quite a long time, is up and awake in UK. Man, you're up early, and he's still enjoying the Element Immersive 5x30. Unfortunately, I haven't seen so far any significant discounts on Element, but I suspect there are site-wide discounts at a lot of places like Optics Planet. I know they carry Element.
Or I would look at Utah Airguns.
All right, let's see what Utah Airguns has. See, Optics Planet has a big advantage. in this regard because I have an affiliate account with them.
Oh yeah, sorry. If you want to go
No,
off
no,
this
no,
clinic, go
no.
off this clinic.
If we find a better deal in Utah Air Guns, go with it.
Utah Airguns is the importer of Element Optics.
Well, with their sister company is an importer.
Yeah.
Called the Marksman Distribution or something like that.
Yeah. They
So
opened a brand new building this week, so it should be like there's some killer discounts and stuff going on over there.
That should be interesting. So I'm on their website trying to see. Okay, they have 5 items for optics sale, and the Element 5 to 30 so far is not on there. But anyhow, we'll get back to that a little bit later. We'll do a little bit of a general overview.
Okay,
So
let's answer your question.
Yeah. Which one?
The one that you asked me that I
let's do that.
That I sidestepped.
Yeah.
How do we decide what to sell? So Anarchy has 3 distinct pillars, and maybe a 4th one sneaking in there a little bit. One pillar is we do our own brand. So we look in the market and we find firearms that are underserviced in the aftermarket industry, and we service them. And this right here, the Ruger Precision Bolt Shroud, was one of them. And the handle that's on here, and the firing pin that's inside, because this is a MIM part, and inside's a MIM part, and they break. So that's where we started Anarchy 10 years ago. We started with this right here, literally.
Cool.
So we started really niche. We found products that weren't available on the market that there was demand for, which kind of plays to our last live stream, like very, very intimate with the Ruger and what it did to the market, because that's about the same time we started our company. Yeah. And then so we make our own parts, and we flopped a few times. We've our most success has been finding niche parts that no one else makes, be for Savage or Thompson Center or Bagara or whatever, right? Just niche kind of products, and we've thrown some innovation into the products. The bend in this handle changes the actual ergonomics of a Ruger Precision rifle or a Ruger American rifle. We, as far as I know, we're the only ones with a self-timing bolt handle for the TKT1X.
Yeah, I have that one. That works very well. Although I did have to machine a piece off of my XLR chassis to make it fit.
Yeah, it is what it is. And then,
but it's nice view.
We make it for the Bagara B14 as well. So that's one pillar, right? We just find firearms that are underserviced in the market, and we make things, mostly handles and firing pins and some small accessories. The second pillar is we retail items. Okay, sorry. So I'll back up. I shoot PRS competition. My other 2 business partners, they hunt a lot. So if you look at our website, there's you can definitely see the PRS influence. You can see the blue collar, we're covering all the blue collar rifles. Then you can see a skew towards hunting. And we believe in not using products that we don't use. So you will see this weird assortment of products because we sell what we use. So we make products, and then in the hunting world, so in 2019, 2020, we followed the rimfire world as it exploded, the 22 competitions and all of that. So if you look at our product lineup, you will see all of the factory 22 offerings. We have the most accessories for them, typically on the market. We followed that really closely. We followed the change in the muzzleloader hunting technology really closely. So you'll see ramrods and muzzle brakes and like anything to do with muzzle loading. We have a whole array of things for muzzle loaders. So that's where we make products, a kind of a PRS focus and improving the ergonomics of the gun, and then the hunting side. Then from there, the next tenet is we retail items. So we retail a lot of complementary items to the items that we make and to the rifles that we make. So stocks for those, chassis, triggers, scope bases, scope rings, muzzle brakes, things like that. So we retail very complementary products. kind of more in the precision rifle, and then in the hunting, you'll see, we'll retail some GPSs and some wireless communication devices, satellite texting for those that hunt in the back. We have freeze dried mills. And another way we get products is our COO wants a good deal on something, so he'll do a buy-in and we'll sell it, and if it works, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, we close them out. So again, we use most of the stuff that we sell. So that's kind of how it goes. And then the next tenet of the business is the law enforcement stuff we do with the UF Pro clothing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's another tenet. And then we just started another one. We've been designing and OEMing for other people.
Oh, how interesting.
So after the stream, I'll show you a few things that we've done. I think we've talked about it.
Yeah, I think I know some of it, but
yeah, we've talked a little bit about it. But we make some parts for other people, and we've helped design a few things. So just really interesting. We kind of just look for opportunities where there's not a lot of competition.
Very cool. Honestly, I think that's a good strategy. So since we're talking about Anarchy Outdoors and mounts, I will point out one thing is that most of you know I have a website, darklordofoptics.com. There's a paywall for some stuff. Most of the stuff you can access with a free account, and that's where I keep the agglomeration of all my different recommendations. I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can see it. It's kind of a live post. I let it out, and then I have been slowly updating it, and I will do more of it tonight and tomorrow morning. This is what it looks like. Okay. So I've got a post on Black Friday deals. I will put a link to that in the chat box. I will be looking at more and more stuff as I go along and updating it. So if there is something specific you're looking for, glance there. I obviously cannot cover every possible thing that's on the market. So mostly pay attention to things I have good understanding of or just find interesting. So as you can imagine, it leans relatively heavily toward the optical side of things, which should be absolutely unsurprising. Normally, when I make these lists, Anarchy Outdoors is somewhere toward the very end. I knew that Aaron was going to be here, so I decided to put it kind of in the middle, just out of sheer politeness. So the good people at Anarchy Outdoors, and Aaron can talk about that a little bit, they've got 10% site-wide. That includes a discount on Area 419 mounts. I use them almost exclusively, and it's not real common to find discounts on those. And then they've got 30% off on what they call doorbusters, and I'll let Aaron talk about that a little bit. So 10% is everything, right?
Yeah, so site-wide is 10% off. So if it's not on a doorbuster or a different deal, it's just site-wide 10%. It's one of our more standard sales that we run.
Okay.
But
and you need a Black Friday 25 discount code, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Black Friday, all capitals, 25 is the discount code.
Okay. All right. So you have 30% off on a few things. One is Alpha Grips. That's something you make yourself, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And then there's Wooks products. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. And Gen 2 Sendit levels. Out of curiosity, it looks a little bit random. Like, why Wooks? Why Sendit? Like, what made you choose that to be 30% off?
Can't give my secrets away.
You don't have to answer. I'll still ask.
So one, right? We want one of our own products in the doorbuster, right? I'm gonna guess we have a higher stock level on the Alpha Grips.
Okay.
It's also a great product, and they're expensive.
Well, I have one. It is a very nice grip,
and we've got a lot of guys that like them. So it's that's a way to say thank you. That grip has got very small margins on it, just because of the way it's manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thank you. Wooks, we have we have a very good relationship with Wooks. We are their Canadian exporter, so we export to Canada for them. So we have a little higher margins than most of their other dealers because of our relationship. And then the send it level, it's something cool we throw in there. Maybe there's a little bit of overstock or something, but just something different, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to come up with doorbusters, and if you watch our emails, you'll see some of the same products cycle through. These are all unique. I don't think we've door busted any of these before. So
Very interesting. Before we move on from this, I don't have a question for you. So Wooks stocks. I don't have huge amount of familiarity. I spent a couple of months trying to get my hands on one. It didn't work, and I went another direction. So I've never shot with one. Why would you go with a Wooks stock versus a myriad others, from MDT to KRG to Graybo, Macmillan, you name it? Other than 30% off right now, what would drive you to buy Wooks stock?
I think the biggest thing that drives most people to the Wooks is the hybrid between modern and the wood. They're solid, right? And it comes down to personal preference when you're choosing a stock, right? MDT makes really great stuff, and MPA makes really good stuff. Peak 44, Graybo, Macmillan,
Manners.
Like there's just the list goes on
No
for days. There's no shortage, right? The Wooks is a kind of a classier, traditional look without a massive price tag. Now, some of their chassis will get up there, but like an MDT ACC Elite, they'll set you back $1,800. Same with like an MPA Vanquish when you fully outfit them. And same with the Manners, right? And Manners take forever to get. So I think the biggest appeal to the Wooks market is, one, their products are solid. they are pretty good, but it's that hybrid wood and and modern, and they just released some AK furniture that looks awesome.
How interesting. I'm gonna put some Wooks stuff. This is Anarchy Outdoors page. This is Wooks.
And if you want to do a project with Wooks, let me know. I was letting Max kind of take care of you. I have an incredible relationship, and if I ask them, they will probably do whatever you want.
Look, I wanted to do a project with Wooks. Now I went the other way. Next time I have a project I want to do, I'll mention it. We'll see.
Yeah, let me know.
You know my thing. I don't ask more than twice. Not because I'm arrogant, because I'm busy and there are options.
Yeah, we have a really good working relationship with the CEO.
All right. I'll let you know next time I have a project. So for those of you listening, so I'm a very strange gun tuber. I never ask for anything unless I'm doing something specific. And when people offer me stuff, usually I refuse more often than I accept. Go figure, right?
I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's just. But anyhow, so they do look pretty. And now it's coming back to when I was looking at it, the one I found really interesting for like a precision hunting rifle was this one, the Super Ligera. That is just a pretty looking stock. I gotta give them credit.
The Super Ligera is a great stock.
Yeah, that is pretty.
It's being used by Best of the West in a lot of their builds.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That is very cool. Okay.
But I mean, you're being from the Russian bloc. Did you look up their AK furniture?
I did not. I have 3 AKs. I do a few things with them, but honestly, I never really cared. I'm originally from the Russian bloc. That means I take anything that comes from that part of the world with an enormous bucket of salt.
Yep.
That's what we did with Max. He's all very pro-Russia. I'm just can't wait until they get nuked. So, different approach.
Ilya's like, I want to push the button.
No, 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 no. I don't want to push the button. I am gonna fly over and piss on ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I exaggerate, of course, right? But we didn't leave. When I lived there, it was still Soviet Union, and we didn't. We ran away. We came here as refugees. There's a reason for it. It's not because it was so great there or have such warm, or because I have such warm memories. To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. I see people are slowly filing in. I just saw somebody put something comment to that Black Friday post rather than something in checkbox.
Yeah. We need some comments, guys. Ooh, wrong
Yes, we
button.
need some comments. So, since nobody wants to talk, let's do this. I have a couple of new scopes I got in for review, and I set up one of them in front of the collimator. So I'm going to show you the reticle a little bit. I kind of like doing these things. I'm going to give you a little bit of a kind of a 5 to 10 minute talk on short rifle scopes and why they're interesting and why a couple I just got in are short. In the meantime, if you have any Black Friday or discount related questions, or basically you are trying to set up a rifle, you're trying to see what optic would work, now's the time to ask. I might be able to come up with something that's fairly heavily discounted at the moment.
Are you going to show the primary arms, one that
Yeah.
you just posted?
Yeah. I have two. I have primary arms that's set up on the collimator, and I'll explain why I got that. But before I do that, we will talk about this. You know what this is?
No.
That's a Vortex AMG 1 to 10 by 24. It's referred to on the forums as Eleanor, which funnily enough was Vortex's internal name for the project. And if you are a car guy, you'll remember from that Nicolas Cage movie,
Eleanor.
that Eleanor Mustang. So because that was kind of the dream. From the standpoint of an optical designer, trying to pull this off is the dream.
Where did you get your hands off? Well, you're so connected, but they're not available, right? They're hard
No,
to get.
So here's I've known about this. I've seen many prototypes and quite a few production ones over the years. I've never done a full test. They first released them only bundled with some sort of Daniel Defense rifle. I think a year and a half ago through Euro Optic, and I was trying to figure out if I want to do a review one or not. Personally, I'm very interested. I could always get one, right? But it's a super cool design. But unless it's going to become available at some point, like this review would be entertaining but not real actionable, right? All of a sudden, I see Rifle Gear offering these as an option with different rifles. Couple months ago, I think Euro Optic got about 50 of these in and were offering them. You could choose which rifle they would bundle it with, etc. Since they're kind of trickling out a little bit at a time, I have to assume that either they'll continue getting them out a little bit batch here, batch there, or they'll just become available for sale. Okay, because Vortex is always growing. And in anticipation of that, that was enough justification for me to decide to do a proper review. And besides, I just put together a short AR-15 pistol that I'm really enjoying, and a short scope would be just perfect on it. So this scope is 8.5 inches long. It's a legitimate 1 to 10. I'm going to pull off the scope caps so you can see it in all its ultra short glory. I don't know why I like short scopes so much. Maybe I'm compensating. So just on, it's with the two caps, it's exactly 19 ounces, a little bit under that.
It's familiarity.
Hmm?
It's familiarity. You feel at peace.
Yeah, exactly. The eyepiece is a little bit different. It's not quite traditional fast focus design. It's very coarse thread, so the adjustments are a little bit different. In normal Vortex tradition, for the Gen 3's illumination is locking. The illumination is that diffractive technology. When I saying that it's bright is kind of like saying the moon or the sun is a little bit bright. So this is on 1 power. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know under which conditions. This is the brightest. This is 11. I don't know under which conditions I'd need to put it on 11. On like 7 or 8, it's absolutely nuclear day bright. But on low settings, actually good enough for low light. The apparent field of view is the widest of all the high quality front focal plane LPVOs I've seen. And as far as performance on 1 power, this may be the best I've seen from a front focal plane, a low power variable yet. I'm waiting for the correct mount from Reptilia. It's coming here. It's still not here, so I have not had it on the gun. I have these rubber mounts that I can put on to play with stuff. That's what I did. Haven't done shooting with it yet, so there'll be more. I've heard, some of the people in the military, some loved it, some hated it. Lots of people are talking about this. Almost everyone I've heard talking about it couldn't tell their ass from an elbow. Making a scope, so this is 1.5 inch shorter than the regular Gen 3 1 to 10. And performance-wise, it's extremely close, probably better on low magnification, on 1 power, with a wider field of view. This is an accomplishment. The only low power variable I know of is the March 1 to 10 Shorty. The March 1 to 10 Shorty has a much shorter objective lens, which is hard to do also, but that is one of the reasons they had to put a side focus on, because the depth of field is relatively shallow. They needed the side focus to get it all to work. This is done without a side focus, with a relatively normal objective lens focal length, where all of the 10 times all the magnification happens here, in this tiny little section of the rear tube between the turrets and the eyepiece. It's fucking amazing. Okay, the fact that this scope, not only does it not suck, it's actually quite good, is just remarkable. Okay. Now, if you want the best image quality in a low power variable, you should not be going for this. This is very good. This is better than anything that costs less. But you can get, you can go spend $4,000 on Schmidt 1 to 8 by 24, and it's going to be better image. The scope is also going to be 2.5 inches longer, maybe a little bit more. The best image quality and low power variable I've seen yet, I think, is Blazer 1 to 7. Oh, that's more of a hunting scope. It's probably 6 ounces heavier, 3 inches longer, but it is amazing, right? If you're going to be setting up a gun where you're going to have a bunch of shit in front of it, where real estate is at a premium, you need lasers, lights, activators, space for clip, and all that, this is it.
Hey, on that topic.
Yes, sir.
Mount recommendation
for
a LPVO to get over the top of a laser.
No, I mean, it depends on the laser, right? It depends.
Well, the one I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
So the mount I currently have on my gun is just a normal AR cantilever.
Yeah, okay.
But when you C-clamp over it, the bottom third, like your thumb or the bottom third of the laser's in the bottom of it.
So when you're on 1 power, no matter how high you mount the scope, you will still see the laser in the bottom.
Okay.
On 1x. So from a standpoint of infringing on the optical path, etc., when you go on high magnification, they'll get out of the view because it's going to be defocused.
Okay, I'll put it back on and play with it. I'm just dabbling in this.
On scope mounts, there are a lot of good scope mounts out there. If I were to pick a couple of scope mounts with the fewest compromises I've seen to date, it's Area 419 for the precision stuff. And for ARs and stuff like that, I'm really impressed with what Reptilia pulled off, that are very slick, very lightweight, very streamlined mount, yet still very stiff. Okay. The Reptilia also has an advantage in this case, that they do make taller ones, right? The standard height for an AR-15 single-piece scope mount is 1.54 inches. That's the tall area for 19 mount. That's 39 millimeters translate to 1.5 inches. Reptilia makes a 1.7 and a 1.94. So in principle, lifting up the optic a little bit is going to help you clear the laser a little bit. You'll still see it, but it'll be a little bit less. And given your back issues, it may be worthwhile for you to explore a taller mount. mean, you have lower back issues. You don't have any major neck issues, right?
No,
But
no,
you're doing
I don't have any.
jiu-jitsu, so not yet. You
But
will.
I'm trying. You know, I'm trying to be upright and none of
Yeah,
this.
correct. So if you're the
I'll
way
play with
I'm
it.
built, the way I'm built, right? Like I have a neck, but not a lot of it. I'm okay with the one and right. So I'm okay with the 1.5 inch mount. Uh, but one of the reasons I like it quite a lot is that most of the clip-on mounts and all that are for that height. If you're trying to get over the laser, don't hugely care about a clip-on or willing to get a riser for that, something like that. I'd go to Reptilia and look for a higher 1.7 or 1.9 inch mount. Speaking of Reptilia, if I remember correctly, Primary Arms is running a pretty serious sale on some sort of Reptilia stuff, since we're supposed to be talking about sales.
Oh, really? I have a primary arms
Yeah, that is. Let
dealer
me show. I'll
shirt.
show you right now. So I've got a page from them, and they keep on updating it. So this one may not be fully updated. For the 30 millimeter regular height mount, it's $200 instead of $300. That's a significant discount. And they had a bunch of other Reptilia mounts. Let me filter this a little bit, and we'll see brand. I don't know if they have the taller ones discounted, but this may be the best prices I've seen on Reptilia for a little while. There we go. So there's all the Reptilia stuff. Which optic are you working with, Aaron?
It's the Cronus, Athlon Cronus 1-6.
That's so 34 millimeter.
No, it's a 30 millimeter.
You sure it's a 30?
Well, I would grab it, but it's on a gun, so I'm not going to.
Okay, yeah, don't grab it. But anyhow, so they've got the 1.93 height for $230, which is very, very good for Reptilia mount.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% sure it's a 30.
Yeah.
It's a 30 millimeter tube.
So I am going to dump a link to this into the thing. So if you guys are looking for Reptilia, from what I've seen lately, right now, Primary Arms pretty much has it made. That's the link. Okay. So while we were chatting, Mr. OC Lofton is asking me about Falcon Optics 4-40 by 58. I have to admit I have not seen this one. I talked to Nick Watts, the proprietor of Falcon Optics, occasionally, and I was planning to look at one of his Japanese scopes sometime in the coming year. But this particular one I don't think I've seen. Let me look what this one is. I've got agreed. It's a second focal plane, right? I have not seen this one. So I'm afraid I'm not a ton of help. Nick Watts is a good dude and a good shot, and he understands things. And Falcon Optics has really come a long way since those very early scopes that I've seen. Oh no, it's a front focal plane. How interesting. Now I'm curious. So I helped Nick with the reticle a little while back. I want to see if that's actually in this scope or not. This might be related, actually. Funny. Yeah. So 4-40 front focal plane scope. That's actually very cool. I am afraid I have not seen this scope. So I am not going to be a huge amount of help. It's $900, so I assume it's from the Chinese OEM. Looking at some of the machining, it is a Chinese OEM. I don't know. I wish I could be more helpful, but I don't like lying. So, Mr. Lofton, yeah, I have not seen this one. But that would actually be, that's a very ambitious design. 10 power erector front focal plane under $1,000. Might be interesting to look at. I'll make a note of it. Anyhow, where was I? Yeah, so we talked about mounts. I went on this whole wild goose chase of trying to find a high quality, inexpensive mount, and I found several kind of serviceable ones. but they were all slightly compromised in some way. The most common thing is either how they do the clamp or how they do the machining in an effort to save weight. They carve out metal where they shouldn't be carving out metal, right? Like there is a way to, Mr. Lofton, you are very welcome. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be more helpful. So the way I'm gonna put that Reptilia mount on the screen again, and I'm just gonna put one of them in larger size just to show you what I mean. There we go. That should be fairly large. So if you look at this mount, it looks fairly slick and fairly slim and fairly lightweight. If you look at how and where they removed metal, nothing is compromising stiffness. There are no hollow spots anywhere near the ring itself. If you look at the ring caps, people tend to make them very thin at the very top, which is one of the things that compromises stiffness. Reptilia didn't do that. They left metal where you need it, and you don't need that much. And even between the rings and that base on the bottom, the way they hollowed it out, they left this vertical reach that gives it a lot of stiffness, right? The clamps are two separate clamps, so there's no crosstalk between them. The clamps actually steel. They've got captured screws and they're spring-loaded. And no matter how hard I try, I can't get them to stick. Sometimes with the clamp, they stick due to some weird machining, friction in the wrong place. With Reptilia, or with the Area 419 for that matter, I cannot get them to stick in the wrong place. I still tend to wet mount the clamps, but I'm not convinced it's needed with better mounts. Doesn't hurt, but I'm not convinced it's needed. So making sense, Aaron?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so if you're like Aaron, you're trying to clear something that's on a handguard, try a taller mount. You'll be a little bit more heads up. Might work very well for you. One of the things to consider, I visited Q last week, so we had a long conversation about this. If you are putting an aiming laser on a handguard, you need to be very, very careful with how stiff the handguard is, because most of them are not stiff enough. And I've had that problem. One of the reasons I haven't done a ton with aiming lasers is that there is a significant aiming point deflection if you put any sort of a pressure on a handguard.
Area 419 did a very good video on that.
Oh, that is
which is one of the reasons behind they're making the task. The task is a super configurable red dot system for an AR.
Yeah. They've got it in the past. I need to see if they're ready or not.
They've got like a diving board that comes off the front of it where the laser goes.
Yeah.
But then I'd have to change to a red dot instead of an LPVO.
Look, you and I are too old to be shooting red dots, basically. Well, I'm too old. You are almost too old. You're getting there. So I spent a lot of time with the guys at Q, right? And they've got these new handguards of theirs called OTP. I've got one. It's different. It has a Q cert. It's probably not for everyone, though you can make it compatible with most M-Lock accessories using BNuts. The stiffness is pretty sick. But one of the things the guys from Q do, they learned it on the fix. The way they attach handguards to receivers is just different. Rather than just try to clamp this thing around the barrel nut, they use a different attachment to try to push the handguard into the receiver, into the upper receiver. So it just doesn't, their handguards just don't flex the same way. Their original Honey Badger handguard was quite stiff, and this new OTP one seems to be even stiffer. I asked them, how they measure, etc. So they showed me they're expanding, right? So they've got a larger facility now. They actually bought a machine to measure the deflection, right? They have a dedicated setup where they bought a bunch of handguards from the market and clamped them in and measured exactly the deflection and made their newest better because, as you can imagine, they're doing all sorts of military stuff. Those guys care about aiming lasers, and they wanted a super stiff handguard. Other than the monolithic receivers like the LMTs and all that, which all tend to be heavy, I think Q's OTP handguard is probably the stiffest, the best support for aiming lasers you're going to find right now. Okay, I promised to show you a picture through a scope. That scope is the one from Primary Arms. It's clamped right now in my fixture, so I don't want to pull it off. So I'm going to show you instead a picture of the scope. It should be available next month. And I will explain why I was interested in reviewing it. And this is not it. This is not it. As always, the one scope I'm looking for is not going to easily show up. Hold on a sec. So it's from the SLX line, and it is a 4-16 by 44 compact. When I say compact, I mean compact. It's 10 inches long, which is for a 4-16 scope is pretty impressive. I am zeroing down to that. They had it on the website earlier today or yesterday, so I'm sure they still have it. For some reason, this. Oh, there we go. I found it. So they're saying ETA and ships in mid-December. Let me put that on the screen again. There you go. $350. So it's decidedly a relatively budget scope. Notice that it's front focal plane. The turrets are regular covered turrets, nothing fancy on the turrets. So the moment I looked at that, I realized, okay, for what it's probably for, I'm going to have some issues with that. And I still asked for it for review, which is a little bit disingenuous. I seldom want to review scopes where I know I'm going to have an issue with them. The reason I wanted to do that, look at the reticle. It says DECA G2 reticle. I first saw it at last SHOT Show, earlier this year, in the high-end PLX compact high-power scopes. It is, I think, the first, at least the first I'm aware of, reticle from Primary Arms that doesn't have a chevron as a primary aiming point. Okay, that's kind of a big deal because people in the precision world have been yelling at Primary Arms about that chevron for quite a long time, and now finally we have a reticle that is truly usable. I have this sort of a complicated relationship with ACSS reticles. I generally like what they do with low-powered scopes, and I generally think they're out of their minds on the high-powered scopes. That having been said, they clearly sell, and Primary Arms clearly doing well, so they have their customer. But if they want to expand their higher-powered scopes into, I hesitate to say this, but I don't have a better way of saying this, to more serious shooters, to people like Aaron, for example, all that ACSS madness with 8,000 range finding features and all that shit, it ain't gonna fly. Okay. DECA G2 is the first reticle from Primary Arms that I would be perfectly comfortable taking to a match or showing to Aaron, for example, and not be left out of town. I really wanted to look at it in their higher-end PLX compact scopes. They looked very, very good. They have a couple of models that I think will do extremely well for them. But their release has been delayed. I think they'll be out in Q1 and Q2 of 2026. They're making some changes. I don't know what they are. I'll find out during SHOT. And all of a sudden, I see it in this scope, and it's going to be out this month. So I politely asked them to send me one so I could play with it. Now that I'm playing with it, it is kind of a nice reticle. So I am going to give you a through the scope video of that reticle. Now I'm going to walk off to stand next to the collimator. So the scope's pointing in the collimator. There's an overlap of two reticles. I'm going to go move all that stuff around. So you'll be able to hear me. I'll be able to hear you, Aaron talking, but I won't be able to see the screen. So, Aaron, if any interesting question comes in, please tell me.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, I've got a wireless microphone. So right now, there are two reticles overlapped. One reticle on a scope, and another one is reticle projected by the collimator. I'm going to separate them from each other a little bit so you can see. I am right now on 16 power. So the thin reticle is what's in a rifle scope. And if you look at it, it is a perfectly normal 0.2 milliradian based mil hash reticle with a center aiming dot. There's nothing weird. It doesn't have 6,000 rangefinders. It's got slightly different marks at 5 milliradian away from center, which is perfectly okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of a better view, right? 10 milliradian wind holds, and $350. The scope is tiny. It's light. I can put it in the gas gun and shoot a match, and I'm probably going to be okay. I will try to convince Primary Arms to make a Gen 2 version of this with an exposed elevation turret with a zero stop. But even as is, this is a pretty decent reticle. Aaron, thoughts?
They're late to the party, but no, I like it. It's clean. I like the fact that they went with floating dots on the mill hashes on your wind holds or your elevation over under holds.
Yep.
You know, the standard in a good reticle, at least in my opinion, and take my opinion for what it is, I guess. It's got to have the two tenths hashes. I mean, this is
for precision. You pretty much have to. So there's illumination. I'm now on 3. The 6 of the previous was super bright. Can you see the illumination pretty well?
Yeah, Aaron? I can see it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to dial down magnification so you can see the rest of it. Okay. So on the horizontal, it's plus minus 10 before you get to thick bars. On the vertical, it goes down a lot. Hold on, let me refocus it. So it is, I think it goes down by 20, something like that. Let's see. We can measure that. Yeah, so on the vertical, it goes down by 20 milliradian. Do I care? No. Is it a problem? Also no. If I were to shoot with a reticle only, it's not ideal because it doesn't give me wind holds. But you know what? We've been, shooting with mil dot and other reticles for quite a long time. We can figure out how to do it. That's not something that's going to intimidate me very much. It is a legitimately decent reticle. Okay. So I'm gonna. So this is 4 power. So this is the minimum magnification. And one of the nice things is that the reticle is relatively thin, but it's still visible even without illumination. It's kind of okay. With illumination, it's perfectly visible. Okay. In terms of we can look at tracking if you want, although I'm not going to say hugely care. In terms of reticle graduations, it looks to be pretty much spot on. The reticle is, I think, accurate. I'll do a more careful check and see. Okay. It's a slightly hokey setup that I've got right now. Still haven't fixed it, but it'll work. So I'm gonna. I just uncovered the turret. Is that 4? Yeah, that's 4. So the first 4 mils are tracking. I am not gonna bore you with all the tracking tests because of how wonky this current setup is. I was trying to do something quick and dirty, but it works. And to me, the reticle is a big step. So Primary Arms is one of these weird companies that I keep a very, very close eye on because they're growing rapidly. They are doing a lot of things correctly. And they are capable of a lot more than most other optics companies coming up, right? When an optics company comes up, they are out to invest in a few product lines and make some products, etc. And then they depend on the sales of those exact products to continue developments and all that. Primary Arms is such a massive company in terms of their overall retail sals that they It's a big company. Like, I went and visited them a couple of years ago. I was shocked how big they are. They are very well capitalized. If they want, they can do a ton with their optics side, and it's growing at warp speed. And they, comparatively speaking, they make very few mistakes. Okay. This scope is going to be interesting. I'm going to pop it on an accurate AR and go spend some time shooting with it. But the reticle looks to be absolutely legit. To address your question about being late to the party, I'm not so sure, right? So they
I
introduced,
guess I spend too much time in a certain class of optics, I guess.
correct, yeah. The volume is whoever is going to do that certain class of optics for a little bit less money.
Yeah.
And support it properly and all that. When Vortex first came out, everybody was kind of pessimistic. We had Leupold, we had Bushnell, we had Weaver. We had so many renowned, historic, etc. scope brands, right? And I remember when Vortex first came out, lots of people would go like, "Why would I buy a Vortex?" Right? Well, fast forward a couple of decades.
Yep.
So Primary Arms is pretty nicely positioned to kick some ass. Well, whether they do or not is an open question. We're about to find out. But I will say so. This Vortex AMG 1 to 10 that I have here, this is, I think, the most American-made rifle scope in existence today. I don't know for sure where every element is made. I think the reticle cell is coming from elsewhere. Maybe some lenses or not, but it's more US made than any Leupold or Burris or anything like that. Okay. The most US made optic in existence is the HDX1 red dot by Primary Arms. I think the actual laser diode is coming from Germany. Everything else, the lens, the body, the electronics, everything is in the US. And they build it themselves. They built a freaking clean room. They have a whole engineering team and production team, and they're doing it in-house. So don't discount Primary Arms. I think they will do very well. And of course, going back to the whole Black Friday business, on the retail side of things, I am going to go back to my website where I've got that page. With them, and I'm gonna see if I already updated the Primary Arms thing. They had so much stuff out. Where's Primary Arms? Enrique Honduras. Oh, it's on there somewhere. But basically, so I put a link in the chat box for Primary Arms. The several things stood out to me. One was the Rectilia mounts. That's a significant discount. Another one for their own optics. You could buy some of their PLX compact rifle scopes. The previous version that were always about $1,500. Now you can buy a couple for $1,000. In terms of the optomechanical performance, this is pretty freaking spectacular. The newest, the one with the diffractive reticle, that's stupid bright. It's normally $1,750. Right now they have it for about $1,450, which is also a very, very good deal. So if you're looking for a Black Friday sale, it's not a bad idea to swing by Primary Arms website. And if you use one of my links, I will personally appreciate it. And if you don't, I assure you I will not die and have to sell my house. With LPVOs, it's low power variable optics for those who are not used to the abbreviation. It's always kind of an interesting thing in that what is the best, all the time somebody rolls up, goes, what's the best low power optic? Money, no object. I want to buy once and never have doubts. And I usually tell them to go fuck off. Because that is a retarded question. We all do something a bit different. I'm a precision guy at heart. I try to stretch the distance and everything. I really like low power variables. I really, really do. But still, any low power variable scope has to be designed around excellent performance and 1 power. If you're not using it on 1 power, get something else that doesn't go to 1 on low end, because that always makes everything difficult. Okay. Then there is a question of whether they're going to go second focal plane or front focal plane. I lean toward front focal plane designs again because I'm a precision guy at heart and I like using reticles and I want to be able to use it in any null magnification. If you are mostly going to be around on 1 power and then on max power, and you don't hugely care whether reticle subtensions are accurate everywhere, second focal plane scopes have a lot to offer. Primary arms 1 to 8 by 24 PLXC. Second focal plane fiber illuminated is excellent. Arguably the fastest low power variable scope on the market today is still, remarkably, a version of the Vortex Razor Gen 2 1 to 6. So there is, but the regular one is very, very good. But the one that I mean is, let me see if I have it pulled up somewhere. Of course, I do not. I'm going to pull up the page and I'm going to show you. So for some relatively specialized troops, Vortex made a version of the Gen 2 1 to 6 with a different second focal plane reticle. And that reticle is called EBR 7F. What 7F reticle is, I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's a glass etched reticle. So when you have a reticle with fiber illumination, it's just wires. It cannot be easily glass etched. Okay. But if you go glass etched, it's hard to get that nuclear bright illumination unless you go with a diffractive reticle. So one of the units, relatively specialized units, and then several others caught on and started doing it as well, asked Vortex to make a special run with this reticle that you see on the screen. It's a BDC for regular 556 ammo with wind holes, with a few mil marks in the reticle, and that stupid nuclear bright reticle. It is ridiculously bright. It's best bright as the same G thing I showed you, maybe faster to use because it's in second focal plane, close to your eye. Euro Optic is clearing these out together with the mount. That's basically the whole thing with the cattail caps and a mount and this little carry bag. Well, carry bag's not super important. It is a pretty nice mount for $1,200. And that likely means that Vortex is clearing out the last of these at the head, and there will be no more. Because at this price, I don't think they're making any money on it. They're just clearing out something that's been sitting there for a while. It was the overflow. They probably made a larger batch than the military wanted. The contract ended. They have a few. If you like second focal plane low power variables, this is probably the running it on 1 power. This is probably the fastest low power variable in existence today. Okay, so there's a funny story. So when SF guys wanted to have a new optic, they wrote a requirement, and they basically based it on this scope. They wanted the 1 to 6 Vortex Razor Gen 2. They wrote a requirement just for that, but the way government works, it has to go out to bid. So they told the purchasing people exactly what it is, wrote up a set of requirements. The big army decided to go shopping and bought a SIG Tango 6, 1 to 6. So now the SF guys are basically, not using that and buying the Razor Gen 2s and Gen 3s and AMGs and stuff out of their own pocket. Amazing how things work. Funny thing is that I tested that Tango 6 is not a bad scope at all. But if you want to go fast, this one, this Razor Gen 2 is pretty freaking remarkable. I'm going to make a link. I'll put it in the chat box. Again, I'm just mentioning, since you guys are not asking any questions, I'm mentioning the things that's... Oh, there's a question that stood out to me. That is an unusual configuration. I think once these are gone, we probably are not going to have any more. If this is up your alley, there won't be too many more opportunities. Mr. Cody DLO? Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce that last name. Is asking about Fidots or March FX 4.5 to 28 by 52 with Shuriken turrets and FML PDK reticle. I could be wrong. I'm gonna go and confirm, but I was under an impression that the FML PDK reticle is not eliminated. Yeah. Oh, they have it. They have a PDKI, but I don't see it. Oh, they do have one. Okay, they do have an eliminated version. Okay, good. So, I like the March FX 4.5 to 28 by 52. That scope was designed more or less for my request back when I was doing some March. I like the 5 to 42, but I actually prefer a 4.5 to 28 because of how well it handles flare and because it is more forgiving to get behind. I know there is a whole love fest about the March 5 to 42 PRS version of the scope, and it is a very, very nice scope. I don't get into that discussion very much, but I think the people pushing it right now are not necessarily. Well, they may be honest actors if they're lying to themselves, right? So, people are very good at lying to themselves. The way they're talking about it, I mean, they're either lying or they're blind. It is a very, very nice scope, but I asked March to design a 4.5 to 28 to overcome the usability shortcomings of the 5 to 42. Right, so there's that. The PDK reticle is a pretty nice reticle. I've seen it, I have not used it in the field. Without illumination, I don't like it, right? So I kind of hold an opinion that reticles are supposed to be usable across the whole magnification range. That includes a low power. And all of these precision-oriented reticles tend to be quite thin. So lower power, you cannot use it without illumination. So I would not go for the one without illumination personally. With illumination, it's a perfectly reasonable scope. Euro, I think, has it back ordered, but maybe somebody else has it in stock. I don't know. The reticle looks perfectly reasonable. It's not quite my cup of tea. I prefer something slightly different to make the 0.5 mil holes a little bit easier. But it was designed by a PRS guy. He's a good shot. He knows what he's doing. So it looks like a perfectly serviceable reticle. The thing with the March 4.5 to 28 by 52 is that when they designed it, and when they were doing that, I didn't know. They didn't tell me. That was irritated me a little bit. The scope is quite short and quite compact and not heavy. It's about 30 ounces, which for a scope of this type is quite light. When they were designing it, in order to control halation, flare, stray light, and all sort of stuff, they put in a few baffles here and there, and they really constricted the exit pupil on low magnification. So it never gets, even on low power, I don't think it ever gets above about 3.5 or 4 millimeters, something like that. So if you are using it for an application that requires shooting in low light, you find yourself in an interesting situation where, as the sun sets, the image is still remarkably flare-free, contrasting, and well-defined, but it starts getting darker comparatively faster with some other designs that give you a larger exit pupil. When I was doing the comparison, I had it next to a Tangent 3 to 15, very different magnification range, but similar size and weight scope, similar objective diameter. And I noticed that on 4 or 5 power, where they were in the same magnification, the image just looked so different. And then I looked carefully, I realized that the Tangent has a much larger exit pupil on low magnification. On high magnification, the exit pupil is basically objective diameter divided by magnification, right? But as you start going lower, there are some things inside the erector system that start restricting that. So the exit pupil does never, on low power, this formula of objective lens diameter divided magnification no longer works with almost any scopes. And with the March 4.5 to 28, other than I think that formula works between 20 and 28. Below 20 power, they start to constrict it a little bit. I think it was right around there, or below 18, something like that. But for competition use, which mostly happens in daylight or decent light, like fading light but not really dark. It works exceptionally well, and again, it's a very nice scope. I'm always surprised when you go to NRL Hunter matches. Then I don't see more of these on Hunter rifles. If you're trying to make weight, this level of performance at 30 ounces is probably the best you're going to find. Right? It's better than Mark V's and all sorts of stuff. I hope that this is the original question I got. I hope that answers your question. Alrighty. Let's see. Did I miss anything? No. Moving right along. So we've talked about primary arms and a little bit about Euro-Optics. Euro-Optics has a Black Friday sale and sorts of Vortex stuff. It's like 15% off discount. They do a lot of Vortex discounts, stuff like that. One of the things that was very interesting on Euro-Optics website, so the sister company of Tangent is something called SAI, S-A-I. And they've had this very underrated low power variable called SAI 6 for a few years. And they seem to be closing it out. Okay. Aaron, the message you sent me is supposed to be private?
Nah, it's public for the chat.
Okay. Oh, it is public, yeah.
Yeah.
FML WBR. It's also a decent reticle. So I designed FML TR and FML3 for March. But I designed them as more general purpose precision reticle, not specific.
Yeah, the guy that designed the WBMR or whatever is a friend of mine.
Okay, good. Is that the guy who posted as one stang something on the hide? Is that him?
His name is Brandon Rudge.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't know the real name. There's a guy who designed, I think, one of the latest reticles for March. And I find your youthful exuberance entertaining, but not truthful.
Yeah, we can talk about that offline.
Oh,
he's a friend. I'm not sure if I trust.
Yeah, I don't know him from Adam. Right. All I know is what I assume it. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's somebody else. What he says. But anyhow, so what's it? So the guys at Armament, that's a parent company for Tangent and SAI, they are about to release SAI 10. They showed it at last SHOT Show. They've been getting it ready. It's a 1:10 by 24. Another very short scope, which can be very interesting. It looks like they're clearing out the SAI 6. SAI 6 is one of those scopes that looks not super decent, but not impressive on paper until you go and use it, and then it looks awesome. I have a bunch of scopes that come and go. I've got 3 of these, and they're all in use, and they're not going anywhere. Okay, it's a front focal plane, 1:6. There's nothing crazy with the illumination. The reticle is not everybody's cup of tea, but it works. They have a different approach to the rapid aiming points. They've got this little bullet-looking thingies, like an X-wing. On 1 power, it works surprisingly nicely to give you reasonable quickness and good reticle visibility. Illumination is done decently, not ultra bright, but decent. They did something that I really liked. This is a milliradian reticle. They also have a BDC reticle. And the way they did BDC is that it's for the 556 round, but the little small tree over there is still in milliradian, which for me works extremely well because it's a much easier way for me to figure out wind. Again, kind of an odd scope in many ways, but it is extremely well built, extremely easy to get behind, very good optically. And like this, when you actually use it, it's greater than the sum of its parts. It's kind of a weird thing. And $750 for it is a steal. So if you want, this is about $750. Yeah, if you want a front focal plane, low power variable, you will not find anything under 1,000, actually, or under 1,200 that will come close to the SAI 6 in terms of performance. It's a very balanced performance. SAI 6 whole story is kind of interesting. The guys at Armament, they wanted a brand that's primarily Japanese made. This is made by Light Optics Works with some of the design done by them in-house, and they wanted something that was not Tangent data price. So they did this, and then all of a sudden, Canadian military is planning to revamp their Canadian rifle. It's some cult version. It's called C8A4, I think. They're doing trials on something. I mean, they're doing it in a very Canadian fashion. It's going to take them another 30 years or something. But all of a sudden, on the pictures of C8A4 rifles for the Canadian military, I see these size 6 low power variables. Okay. So that was probably the motivation behind making this. And then, of course, they released it into the commercial market. Now these are getting cleared out, and the Psi 10, they're saying, I'm sure the glass is coming from, well, I know the glass is coming from elsewhere, but they are doing enough to call it manufactured built in Canada. I don't know what it's going to be priced. This one was mostly running at around 1,300-1,400. I'm sure Psi 10 is going to be more. I don't know what it's going to be, but under $2,000 definitely. And that one's going to be made in Canada in 1 to 10, and it looks very respectable. But whatever it is, it's going to be more than double what you can get size 6 for at the moment, right? $750 is a very good deal for that. So let me see. FML WBR. Let me, since Aaron asked the question, if is that they're illuminated or non-illuminated reticle? I'm trying to. No, that one is also non-illuminated, and I think it was only in a 5 to 42. That's the version that they're calling the PRS scope, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a picture of the reticle. I remember I looked at it. I remember it was a pretty decent reticle.
The link is in that message, Ilya.
Yeah, it turned out it didn't work. It gave me a dead link. You missed a letter or something. I tried pasting that link. That didn't. Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah, it's a nice reticle. My basic problem with it is it's very thin and it's not illuminated. So on low power, you can't see it. I remember I saw it at Churchill.
Yeah, a lot of what the PRS guys uses are non-illuminated. We don't shoot in the dark.
I know. All right. So and you don't shoot in the dark, and you don't shoot on low power. So I think it's one of those things, right? So if you are looking for a scope for PRS, it's a nice reticle.
I mean, it's match your gear to the use case, right?
Exactly. Right. So. And again, the 5 to 42 is pretty nice scope for that. It has a parent field of view of 26 degrees, and they made the off-axis stuff better in the Gen 2 version. I have a couple of Gen 1s, and which I like very much. They're nice scopes. And if your primary use case is above 15 power, this reticle should work very well. So, all right. Where were we? So we talked about size 6. I thought that was an exceptional deal. We talked about reptilian mounts, area for 19. Let's talk, rather than talking about big retail, let's talk about a couple of scope companies that we both know and love. Or at least know. Love is kind of a complicated term. Let's talk about Tract and Telson Optics. Okay. So the good people at Tract decided to discount fairly heavily what I find to be one of my favorite scopes in their lineup, and that's the 2.5 to 10, 2.5 to 15 by 44 front focal plane. This guy. So it's a nice Japanese scope. It's part of their hunting line. It's normally about $1,100, something like that. Now it's about $800. Here's a link to what it is. Okay. Let's see. Unfortunately, the version with the Eagleman reticle of the same scope that I somewhat prefer is not discounted. It's the original middle dot reticle. It's actually a nice reticle. If you are looking for a general purpose hunting scope, you want to stay out of China, this may very well be the best you're going to do for the money. Okay. Tract scopes are kind of interesting. They're not light. This scope is about 29 ounces, something like that, maybe 30. Windage turret is covered. Elevation turret is fairly tall, and it's locking, and it has a 0 stop. If you are looking for general purpose scope with one rifle you want to use anywhere in the country, this is probably one of the better ones. If memory serves me right, they had an even steeper discount for one of their binoculars. There you go. There's the deals. You're still seeing the site, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's loading. So this appears
It looks like they're 12 by 50.
a 12 by 50. Okay, that's actually a nice binocular. The Toric 12 by 50 is a nice binocular. That's very heavily discounted, and there is a. Oh, there we go. So the spotter. Oh wow! So the 12.5 by 50 is now can be had under $600. That's pretty impressive. It is a nice binocular. It's made by Kamakura in Japan. For out west here, that's a nice design. Okay, their website's crapping out on me. And for the spotter, so I kind of have to admit that I've never tested this spotter. Like, I think I know this design. It's a nice spotter, but I have never laid eyes on it. I have laid eyes on the binocular and on a 2.5 to 15 scope, and also the 4 to 25, also with the Miller front focal plane reticle for $1,200 is very good. So, I kind of had a disagreement with the guys from Tract about the 4 to 25 that they have, simply because it's pretty heavy. It's like 37 ounces, something like that. But, when I had it, I really liked it for a ELR type scope. It has some sort of I'm going to pull off that scope I had in front of the collimator and I'll show you something. But that Tract scope had ridiculous amount of elevation adjustment, and I found that incredibly useful when trying to shoot rimfire ELR. Because you just dial and dial and dial. And the nice thing is about them, again, all this stuff is made by Light Optics Works. They just dial and they just work. Didn't give me any issues. Image quality as you go far off axis deteriorates. It does so with all scopes, including this one. When you get to the very edge, you'll get some shading, some other crap. Again, there are no miracles. You can restrict the adjustment range, and then there will be no shading. But if you want the whole adjustment range, you will have to accept some optical compromises at the edges. There's really no good way to work, no real good way to work around that. But it tracks, and if you need to go to a very extreme distance with something that drops like a rock, subsonic blackout, 22 long rifle, that kind of stuff, that Tract, which now you can get for $1,200, that's probably close to the best you're gonna find. The only things that might be better bang for the buck wise is WFA's fixed power scopes. They're like $300 and they have a ton of adjustment. $350, something like that. All right, this mount is fighting me. I've got these new mounts from Warren. They're using a material called maglite, some sort of magnesium alloy. And these rings are stupid light. So I wanted to play with them. It was fighting me a little bit, but we managed. So just to give you an idea about this Premier Arms that we just discussed, 10 inches, 4 to 16, 10 inches. Okay. $350. This is the Vortex AMG. Yeah, so. Every time I look at this, I've been trying to get somebody to make me one of these, and that's why I pulled the scope of the collimator. Nobody has managed to do so yet. If you look at this thing, in theory, you could take a scope like this, chop off the bell, get the objective lens system with a 24 millimeter objective and make a 1:4 scope that's what, 6 inches long? But nobody wants to do it because size matters, large erector ratio cell. Nobody wants to do an ultra compact 1:4. I'd love to see one. All right, Mr. Aaron, what am I missing?
You've gone over a bunch of things.
All right, so something else. So we talked about tracked. Oh yeah, Telson. So
Telson.
Telson is interesting. Very partial to Telson, as you guys know, because I helped them design the reticles. But now I've spent a lot of time with two of their scopes: the 3-18 by 50 Toxin, that's made in Japan, and 5-25 by 56 Target Master, that's a Chinese OEM. The Target Master is probably the best precision scope to come out of China that I've seen yet. Telson has got all sorts of discounts going on, which you would expect. One of the interesting things that Telson does is that they allow affiliates like me to stack discounts. Okay. That means that I'm going to put a link. This is for the 3-18 scope. Okay. So if you follow that link, you'll see that the scope is discounted from, so it's discounted a little bit by about $100, but then affiliates have their discount codes. Mine is DLO 15. And that stacks on top of whatever discount you find on the website. So if you use a DLO 15 discount code in addition to whatever code you have, where's Telson? There you go. I'm going to share this tab, and let's see what they got. There you go, there's Telson. So, rifle scopes. All right, so they've got, it's not a big product line. They've got 4 scopes. The other one I have a ton of mileage with is this guy. So that is discounted. And whether you use mine or anybody else, they've got a bunch of affiliates. You get 15% on top of this. That makes it for a pretty decent deal. Pushes the 525 right under $1,000. So that's pretty nice. Okay. And let's see. I'm just trying to see what else I missed that was significant. Size 6. We talked about, of course, Anarchy Outdoors. Oh, Armacite. Originally, Aaron and I were going to have a long and complicated conversation about thermals, clip-ons, and all that sort of stuff. And that's probably going to happen 2 weeks from today. Next week I'm traveling, so I can't do a live stream. But in 2 weeks we're going to do that, and we're going to get into thermals a little bit more. Armacite guys are a little bit pissed at me because I need to finish the review and send them the thermal and the night vision clip-on I have back, and I've been a little bit busy. As I was looking at the Armacite next to several very good quality Chinese clip-ons, and I've got the Leica new clip-on coming my way, should be here in a couple of days. So I'm kind of itching to compare that to the Armacite. There is something interesting happening with the thermal rifle scopes and thermal clip-ons that is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of that because we've been at this for an hour and a half, and Aaron looks to be fading, but I need to
I'm good.
I need to tell him something about thermals to kind of cheer him up. So first of all, when I say thermal, I do not mean thermal underwear, right? So if you are getting ready to go sit in a tree, look for a deer for a week, when you hear thermal, you're probably thinking thermal underwear, and you should. It's going to be cold. When I say thermal, I mean thermal imaging optics, thermal rifle scopes, thermal clip-ons. There are several Chinese OEMs that have found a way to get a very good image going. but it's not that the way they process that image does not necessarily make it a better rifle scope. Several American companies who do understand what kind of image you need to aim accurately, they hack into the core they get from the Chinese and dampen some of their youthful enthusiasm to get a more usable image. Here's what I mean. Through quite a few Chinese thermal clip-ons and scopes, you look through it, and man, the picture looks amazing. Everything is sharp, contrasty, and all that. Then when you go and try to shoot something at 300 yards, go, fuck, everything is contrasty. My target that should be sticking out like a sore thumb is not sticking out like a sore thumb because all small contrasty edges, they're all amplified. Makes for a beautiful thermal image, but it doesn't help you distinguish between a bush and a warm-blooded creature. Okay? So when you go and buy one, you have to go into the settings and you have to start experimenting. You have to remember you need to tune the image a little bit, contrast and image improvement settings and all that sort of stuff. Not for the prettiest picture, but for the picture that tells you where a warm-blooded object of some sort is sticking out the most. Armasight does their own core. They buy the sensor itself from Linrad, like quite a few people do, and they build their own core. So they are kind of in full control of how they're going to tune the image. And like a year and a half ago, I was a little bit bearish on what they were doing because I was not super impressed with what they were getting. Well, they've come a long way. They sent me this Operator 640 clip-on, and that stupid thing is very impressive. It's a really nice balance, still a decent image. It doesn't pop as much as with many Chinese thermal optics, but the way they tuned it, it pops enough, and whatever you actually want to shoot is readily apparent. I was out at the range where I do my long range stuff. We have metal plates there. I live in Albuquerque, everything gets a little warm. And we got there before sunset. As we got there before sunset, we were able to sit and look, right? And as everything, the desert is slowly cooling down, and you look at this place, and we have a large coyote plate at 780 yards, 740, whatever it is, which is relatively far for these conventional thermal clip-ons. And I'm looking at several Chinese ones, and this Armasight, and I could see the berm better with the Chinese sights, but I could see the coyote plate better with the Armasight. If I wanted to shoot that thing at 780 yards, Armasight would have been a better way to go. Okay. The reason I started talking about Armasight, it's not cheap. It's normally about $4,000, but they are running a Black Friday discount, and I think it drops it to about $3,500. So the Armasight has 12% off on all the thermal stuff and 10% off on all the. I'm gonna give you guys a link so you don't have to look for it. 12% off on all the thermal stuff, 10% off on the night vision. The night vision is actually looking very good. I have the night vision clip on here that I'm messing with. But there you go. This is their Black Friday, Cyber Monday page. You can look around there. The thermal optic I have the most mileage with is called Operator 640. They are claiming it can withstand the recoil of 50 BMG or something like that. I do not have a 50 BMG to test it on, nor would I want to. I'll be honest with you. But on all the ARs I've had it on for now, it did exceptionally well, and it showed me this very, very nicely balanced performance. The way many modern cores, remember, all these uncooled cores are not made for thermal weapon sights. They're made for thermal cameras and stuff, and where you do want to amplify the edges and see this pretty picture. The way they achieve that, they do something called temporal noise filtering. The way a video coming out of a thermal camera works is basically a stream of images, right? It's a stream of pictures. If it's 60 hertz, you are getting 60 pictures per second. The way they do image processing to get the best picture, they look at successive frames, 2 or 3 successive frames, and do noise reduction based on that. But what that means is that when you go from one picture to the next, there are some artifacts of the previous picture that are carried over because you're using that for noise suppression. One of the easy ways to tell, and you could see that with iRay, for example, which had very, very nice picture. When you pan, you see that there is lag in how the image adjusts, even if you're not panning super fast. Okay. If you take something like, let's say, Envision, which is an American company, they make their stuff in the US, they're not doing temporal filtering for this reason. You pan, it's a 60 hertz thing, and there is no lag, right? With the Arma side, there is also no lag. So keep that in mind. Doesn't mean the Chinese clip-ons or thermals are bad. They're not at all. They're actually amazingly good these days. And for the money, they're better, undoubtedly. If your application includes relatively rapid transitions, if you are not sure how to get into the menus and tune stuff where it's possible, like Steiner allows me to tune a lot of stuff, many others don't. I'd give Armasight a very careful look. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as the Reapers and the Envision and all that. And it has the way they tune the image really matured. They're giving you a decent picture with a very well-defined target, which is what you want out of a weapon sight. You're not there to take pictures. You're there to shoot stuff. Okay. So making sense, Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll go into this in more detail in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll have to ping some links back and forth. So ping some suggestions that we'll throw on the sheet.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you a few, and I need to see. I don't know if I'll have time before that. It would be good to get some videos through them. I have a few here. And I'll have the Leica before we talk in 2 weeks. So maybe I'll be able to take some pictures through that just to show you what the differences are.
The Leica?
Leica came out with a Gen 2 color Knox thermals that have a monocular and a clip-on. And now they have also an option of a built-in laser rangefinder. The Colornox Gen 1 was OEM'd by, I think the core and stuff was coming from iRay, and Leica did some of their own image processing. It was actually pretty nice. But Gen 2 promises to be better. The core, I think, is now either their own or somebody makes it for them in Europe. The sensors from Linrad. Linrad is a French company that provides these for a lot of people. And it looks pretty nice. So Leica is still a German company. First, it's coming as a clip-on that you can only attach to the objective of the rifle scope without Picatinny mount. But I know they're working on a proper Picatinny mount as well. So I've seen some earlier prototypes a year or two ago. They actually look pretty decent, to put it mildly. I mean, Leica knows how to tune images. So I'm very curious how they tuned this one and what adjustment options.
It looks comparable in price to most things.
Correct. Yeah. It looks decent. Leica does very good industrial design. I don't know how they. I mean, when it gets here, I'll be able to talk more about it. It's this interesting thing. This temporal filtering stuff that I've been talking about is almost again because rifle scopes and weapon sights such a small part of this market. All the cores are not intended for this. That most of the cores are not intended for this. They're intended for something else. And a lot of it comes down to what the thermal core manufacturer will let you touch. I know, for example, one company that is buying thermal cores from a very, very well-known American manufacturer, and they have to hack into the processing unit to kind of clamp down on this temporal filtering because they, like for a weapon sight, you really don't want to have lag, especially if you're going to be doing transitions. Like if you are sitting in a blind looking at a feeder waiting for pigs, you don't care, to be blunt, right? But if you're going to do something a little more tactical, okay, that's a little bit different. So then you care about lag and you care about a lot of these things. That's why I care about low, what they usually call in the menus advanced image settings, right? Small image adjustments where I can tune it to be better for for shooting, right? Most of my practical use of thermals, and I'm occasionally going to shoot a pig. Aside from that, I'm just more of a connoisseur since I was in the beginning of this technology, and I'm very curious to see where it's going. So that's that.
Curious. I was watching Falcon Claw, who's an Estonian YouTuber who does a lot of thermal stuff.
Yep.
I think they're having their own made, but they have a thermal that you can clip onto your helmet. So they run PVS 14, and I think they call it the Falcon Claw. It's probably theirs. They're probably having someone make it, right?
Okay.
And then he can take it off his helmet, he clips it right onto his rifle. So it'd be interesting to see if there's anything kind of like that in the United States. There should be. But I'm just
all right. Falcon Claw. I found their website. Let me look at what the hell they're doing. Okay.
So Falcon 640 V2.
Yeah, I'm looking. Their retarded website is asking me 80 questions about my privacy preferences.
It's because it's in the EU.
640 V2 looks very much like iRay.
Yeah, again, I watched the video where it booted up and it had their logo in it, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's an iRay. iRay. In the
just
description, they're saying RH25. That's an iRay. That's a Chinese optic. Yeah. Falcon 640 V2 made for Falcon Claw and Ricoh RH25 V2. That's an iRay RH25.
Okay.
I've tested. That's actually a nice thermal. You could put it in the helmet. You can pop it off and put it as a clip-on a gun.
Okay.
They're lying about the specs. They usually are. That's bullshit. I'm looking at it. That's okay. Oh, that's absolute horseshit.
I love bringing Ilya to the party.
That's just illiterate. Fucking idiots. Yeah, that's an iRay RH25, which is a very nice thermal with some Eastern European marketing.
Which iRay was it? iRay
RH25. Ricoh RH25. So there was this business with some of the Chinese thermal manufacturers being sanctioned for selling shit to the Russians and stuff like that. So iRay all of a sudden stopped pushing their own brand. Now they have this Knockpix that's just iRay, and Rex something that's iRay. Rex is the one that has this IP zoom, which is the stupidest fucking idea in the thermal world that I've ever seen. And I've seen so many stupid ideas. Remember, I was working early thermals in 2002, in the very beginning of this whole uncooled thing, when our uncooled were 20 grand, no, not the cheap ones. I've seen a lot of stupid ideas over there. This IP zoom that Rex, I think, or somebody is doing, that is the single stupidest idea I've ever seen. Maybe that's something we should talk about in 2 weeks.
So, I'm open. I'm open to talk about whatever you want. So my brother-in-law is going to join us, and we're starting to play with the idea of picking up something, and so it's an education system, right? Education. We'll bring we'll bring some, we'll bring the Steiner clip-on, we'll bring the Athlon and the Pulsars and some of the other stuff, and then whatever you add to the list, because you've got way more exposure.
So I really like the Steiner clip-on, partly because of the value proposition. You can get it for not a lot of money. My Steiner friends won't like it. If it is $3,500 for Steiner or for the Armasight, I'd get the Armasight because of how the image is tuned. Steiner is OEM'd by Guide, and it is very good. But under normal prices, without all this Black Friday stuff, so Steiner Armasight is $3,500, and the Steiner. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah, well, it went up for a little while. You could get it for 1,600. Now you could get it for
I know I
1,900.
kicked myself. I should have bought it.
Yeah, you should have bought one. Like even at 1,900, still it's an absolute steal. It's compact. It works well. Nice thing is Steiner. So it's OEM'd for them by Guide, but some of the image processing is Steiner's. So it's not. It's better than the Chinese. That's straight from Guide. They allow you to do a little bit more, and the way the user interface and the menus are done is just better. Right. So that's done very, very well.
I mean, that's kind of the purpose of us doing the thermal one is like when like one of the questions will be like, when does the clip-on make sense versus a dedicated unit versus
Well, yeah. I mean, that is actually a simple question. If you're just setting up a dedicated rig to go hunt hogs, just go dedicated rifle scope. If you're a paranoid fuck who wants something to do everything, get a clip-on. That's why I use clip-ons
sounds like
primarily.
me.
Yeah, I use primarily clip-ons.
Okay.
But there is a reason to my madness. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Okay.
Anyhow, we've been at it for an hour and 41 minutes. And there's still a few people here. We think we've lost most of the audience. So I'll say this, guys. If you have any questions, anything else you want me to cover, now's the time to put something in the chat box for the few remaining ones that I have not yet scared of. When I stop dropping F-bombs, people leave. I don't know. Usually, like on YouTube, I thought it was the opposite. You start using bad language, people pile in, but no. Maybe the Russian accent does it. But anyhow, if there is anything else you want me to cover, any questions you have, we'll be here for a couple more minutes. And if not, we will bid you guys good night and wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have family coming over. I am going to, after we're done here, I'm going to go take a nap and get up at 3 in the morning and start the grill and throw a 16-pound brisket on it. Because if you start driving, you'll get here before it's done, Aaron, just saying.
We're doing a brisket as well, so.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Are
you doing it as well as I am?
That brisket goes on like tonight, buddy. Like it's in the morning. What are you doing?
At 3 in the morning.
Gotta smoke that thing for 16 hours.
It's not usually. It's about 14. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be good.
Yeah. And about an hour in the cooler after that. Yeah. What can I tell you? Unless you come over, you won't know which brisket is better.
One of these days, I'll make it down to New Mexico.
Yeah, you really should. You really should. There's going to be a turkey also. So the way I'm staging this, my sister-in-law is doing the smoked turkey. So I want the brisket to be ready about an hour after she brings the turkey over. I want everybody to fill up on the turkey. Okay, so that the brisket is mostly left for me. Unfortunately, my 12-year-old son has kind of figured out my evil plans, so I think he's planning to hold out and wait for the brisket as well. But we are related, and we probably have relatively similar priorities. All right, I don't see anybody else asking questions, so if anything comes up after we wrap up here, please don't hesitate to put this into the comments under the video on whatever platform you're on. Thank you guys for sticking with us for the last couple of hours. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't overeat. If you do overeat, make sure you don't overdrink. If you overeat and overdrink, you may regret it afterwards, but you'll really enjoy the process.
But do it responsibly.
I would not expect that of myself, and I will not ask others. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Yeah.
Take care.
Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
And stream.